Welcome to the City Current Show, powered by Higginbotham Insurance and Financial Services.
This show focuses on sharing good news and powering the good in our community. Now here's your host, City Current CEO, Jeremy Park.
Welcome back to the City Current Show, powered by Higginbotham. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're always honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference, empowering the good. And that's why we're honored to have with us Dominique Anderson, CEO of Populace Community Strategy. How are you doing?
I'm excellent. The rain is gone. The sun is out. It's wonderful. It's great.
Well, you are doing so much when you talk about affordable housing, real estate development, supporting the community, youth initiatives. We have a lot to unpack, but give us a little background on what led you to start this social enterprise, because you come from a long career in marketing, communications, advertising. So what led you to launch Populace Community Strategy?
You know, it's funny how you can live a lot of lives and wind up in a space and you go, oh, okay, all of it makes sense now. I was ready, poised for all of this. January 6th of 2020, I worked at a CDFI. I walked in the door after the holidays, 15 minutes I was there, and was told that the budget no longer supports my role. So I roll out of that position and I think, okay, what's the next thing? I had amassed a wonderful network in Nashville. I had started doing affordable housing and kind of backed into working in affordable housing because I was at Vanderbilt and launched or helped them with the Wondery Innovation Center. I worked at the Innovation Center and did a lot in the diversity space in that brand new building and bringing more diversity in the space. And then social entrepreneurship, social innovation, which is how I wound up on the board of the Nashville Social Enterprise Alliance. And one of our initiatives there was affordable housing, because that was 2017, 18, when things were really starting to become visible that we had a real affordable housing issue in Nashville. And so that led me to the CDFI, where I launched Nashville's first community land trust, and then onto my own. And so when you start a consulting firm, you think, what do I know? And what I know is words and relationships are my superpowers, but affordable housing and community is very much ground zero of where I live. And that's how we came to Populace.
You kind of alluded to what you do, but go ahead and dive in, because you do a lot.
I do. I think that's probably what I like to run on zero all the time, to do 700 things. And so we consult in affordable housing. We work with real estate developers, nonprofits, municipalities, and educational institutions to help them think through affordable housing strategy, whether that's capital or how do we fit affordable housing in this project. We also work with them to connect with community and then share. There's still a PR and marketing function to the work that I do to make sure that we get messaging out correct about what's coming, and then bringing community together so that community is not the villain to the developer, and the developer is not the devil to the community, right? So we don't want them to, nobody should be the villain. We want to try to make that good midpoint. And then we support our own internal youth empowerment programs, Aspire to Develop and Next Gen Cities. And those are near and dear, having been an educator for 10 years, coming from an educational family and having a teenager, working with high schoolers and college students to help them think through how do they become mission-driven leaders, social entrepreneurs, and then community-focused real estate developers, because you can't be, sometimes you don't know what you don't know, and helping young people get into this space is very much a passion for me.
Dive in a little deeper on that side, because as you mentioned, you don't know what you don't know, but I also think opening up their eyes to both the opportunities and the complexities of the challenges in the community, and how to go about it from a very holistic, well-rounded approach. Just like you're talking about, is bringing the community in as a part of the conversation. How do we leverage the resources and the opportunities in a way that benefits the community and allows them to participate in the opportunity as well? And so talk about, dive a little deeper on that side in terms of what it means for not only the future as developers and leaders in our community, but also to them understanding the complexities of all of these decisions and opportunities.
So there's two things that are really vital in how we came to start setting these programs up. Number one, you're almost no more invisible than 2 times in your life, when you're young and when you're older, right? When you crest into 50, you become invisible and people start doing things and talking to you differently and you feel differently, right? And when you're young, people kind of look at you differently and they push you aside and assume that you should know how to do these things. And we're not really going to bother you with this because we don't think you can understand that. And on both ends, I think that's a really injustice. That's a grave injustice that happens to both of those communities. The other thing that's important when we look at these programs is youth-led crime has surged since about 2022. And especially when we were looking at Memphis, Nashville, Dallas, and Houston, those 4 cities have youth-led crime surges. But they also have surges in gentrification, negative gentrification in those cities. So you have people that are pushed out, you have people that feel unheard and don't have a voice. So what we know at Populace is that people just want to be heard. That's how the community engagement is, why it's so important and how that works. But with the youth, we realize that if young people don't feel heard, if they're feeling the stress that their family is feeling from whatever's happening, that leads them to lifestyles. And if they don't understand or know that they have an opportunity to be empowered to lead and to speak up and to be heard and to create opportunities, right? So that's the importance of engaging youth. The other piece of this is not just community development, but it leads to economic development. Because if these young people are now leaders, then they're going to lead in organizations that's going to support economies and communities, right? And younger, the better, because they are close enough to other age groups to speak to other generations. If we have the income, if they're social entrepreneurs, then they understand how to make money and do well by doing good, right? And so, how do I stand up this business and make something smart? But then how do I also take a portion of that income, just like Populace does? 40% of our funds go into these programs. And then we have other supporters that we depend on to help stand these things up. But if they understand how to do that, they're now contributing to the economy and the community. And then lastly, if they're community-focused real estate developers, if they understand the built environment and how to look at a block and say, okay, I want to buy that block, but I can also now build housing that people can afford, or a community project that's going to really benefit this community, and not just a dog park, but maybe a people park, right? Or something that's really going to benefit everyone. What if you're allergic to dogs? That's not going to make you happy. Or if you have children, that's not going to make you happy. And so looking at it really holistically and not always just bottom line, but realizing that the power that's in real estate development, and that they can own that.
Well, and even going back to how you operate to use the dollars to support the youth programming goes back to social enterprise and how you just conduct your business and your higher purpose. Touch on then how you operate in terms of interfacing with the different entities and, driving the business, driving community, and then obviously supporting the youth-led programming. So talk about kind of your model and how you activate.
It's very much social entrepreneurship. The one piece that's missing is usually, as a social entrepreneur, not usually, but occasionally and often, you're attached to a nonprofit, right? And so Aspire to Develop and Next Gen Cities are not nonprofit. They are benefit organizations, right, that are attached to this company. And at some point, maybe they will be nonprofit. But right now, I believe that there's the nonprofit system, in West Tennessee alone, there's 11,000 nonprofits and they're all going after the same dollar. And so what I wanted to be was one less hand inside of that pot, and that we should be able to stand this up with our funds and then with supporters who understand, whether that's, government or local or business, to support these initiatives. And we run very much as a social enterprise. And so it's really just, okay, 40% of everything that comes in the door goes into this pot over here so that we can then do these programmatic functions for these programs, these youth empowerment programs. And our bread and butter is consulting. It is the community development consulting. It's also development consulting, right? And so if you're a developer that wants to do affordable housing, if you're an emerging or small scale developer and you've gone through a program or a cohort, but you get out and you go, oh, wait, I'm still lost. You call me, and we help walk through that path.
You don't have to name any names, obviously, but give
Sure.
us either a recent success story, a project you're working on.
Mhm.
Talk about what's on your plate.
What's on our plate? So I'm excited to be working in East St. Louis with a church, and they have been kind of strategically buying land around them, and they're now ready to build a project. And so churches and religious institutions and educational institutions are the two organizations that are really exciting to us because we can help them think through, how do you build this affordable housing? How do you build something community? And so we're working with them to build affordable senior small homes, right? And so they will be rental, but it's a really great project, and I'm very excited about it, and looking at how we can also add in some sustainability, some education, and even a farming component with a memory garden. So very exciting.
Yeah, and carry that into some of the goals. When you look at, finishing out this year, building a successful 25 and beyond, what does that look like? What are some of your goals?
For the rest of this year, we really want to get some other larger scale projects, or be a part of larger scale projects that are really going to shift community. And we'd also like to work with some developers, some larger developers who are, for example, I'd like to get some developers who are interested in going this affordable space and they're unafraid, right? I've worked with some small scale, medium scale developers who, at the end of kind of punching all the numbers and looking at it, I decided, well, we'll do market rate, and then next time it'll be affordable. I want an unafraid developer who's going to make a really great impact. I'd also like to see some other communities. That's what we're kind of thinking through, like, how do we support community associations, community organizations, so that they can do this work, right? You see this piece of land, how do you get that? How do you stand something up and then repeat? So we really want to do more of that community focus. On the youth empowerment side, we have a IFundWomen crowdfunding campaign that we're doing right now. I'd love to see that get to 90,000. That's the goal. But I'd also like to get at least one Next Gen Cities event set up. We will have one that'll happen this year. And that's a one-day event where young people and their parents, the community, comes in, and we take a block, for example, and we reimagine that. And they walk through, what does that look like to be a developer? What does it look like to be the community impact? And then what are the other pieces that we're missing? And so they leave empowered to do it, but they also leave prepared to then join the cohort for the Aspire to Develop program. So those are the big kind of hairy, audacious goals for us for 2024 going into 25.
Well, then how can the community help support Populace Community Strategy?
Developers can be unafraid. They can call us. Municipalities who have projects can also call us or email us or go on the website. But really, on the youth empowerment side, IFundWomen, it's the letter I, fund, F-U-N-D, women, our crowdfunding campaign lives there. And so go support. Throw some dollars at it, So if you're an organization, we've had some great support out of Nashville and working on some great support in Memphis. And because we're focused on Memphis, Nashville, Dallas, and Houston, but everywhere is available. We would like to get more support in those spaces and to stand those things up. And so throw dollars at us and throw support and your time and your talents.
For you as an entrepreneur, how has this work opened your eyes, aha moments? Talk about some of those, because as I mentioned early on, you have a long career. I mean, both in marketing communications, that world, education, just like you're talking about, right, community building and investment. So when you take those experiences to what you're doing now, how is this really shaping you as both an entrepreneur, but as a community leader?
The aha moment really came for me personally, because I did have a moment where I sat and I thought, I have lived so many lives. I've done so many things. How does this make sense? And finding the common thread of people, words, and relationships, right? So that's the game changer for me when I realized I could step into anything. The other piece was I could build a business a day, literally soup to nuts. And then sometimes I have to cut it off. And so when I work with other people, I say, okay, here's these 12 things. If you do them, stand it up. It's going to work. feel pretty confident it's going to work. And so it's taking that and saying, okay, that same brain pumped out a curriculum for Aspire to develop. And I realized that young people, I'm always going to be passionate. My mother was a teacher for 32 years. My sister's a teacher. You know, I knew that education in the classroom wasn't my jam anymore. It wasn't my path, but working with young people and people in general to feel empowered and communities, those are the aha moments where I go, oh, okay, it all makes sense. It all comes together.
I love it. We'll wrap up with website, social media. Where do we go to learn more, to get involved and support Populace Community Strategy? You will most likely go to IFundWomen, letter I, fundwomen.com, and it's Next Gen Cities is what you'll find it under. So look for us there and get some cool swag because we're throwing it out the door when you give a little bit, right? And then go to populacecommunity.com, POPULACE community.com, Populace Community. And that's our site. And we put a lot of information there. We sell, if you're interested in being a developer, you have questions, we have little booklets for you there, do a little learning. So they're like $11. Pick up a little booklet, share with somebody you care about. So there's a great opportunity there. Well, Dominique Anderson, CEO, Populace Community Strategy, thank you for all you do to power the good. Thank you for coming on the show. Yeah, Jeremy, thank you for always being such a gracious host. It's exciting always.
Higginbotham Insurance and Financial Services is proud to power the City Current Show. We're a people-first company that protects what matters most, the families, businesses, and trailblazers that keep our community going. As one of the nation's top independent insurance firms, Higginbotham is a single-source solution for business insurance, employee benefits, HR services, and personal insurance that's customized for you. We're here to serve you, the people you care about, and your community. Call 866-377-1959 or visit higginbotham.com.